Elio here with the Eorzean Archives. A year ago, during the announcement showcase, we got our first hint as to what the next Alliance raid would be. Our only piece of information at the time were its name, being original Final Fantasy XIV, and perhaps most key of all, it was the image of the Circle of the 12 outside the Sanctum of the 12. This, mixed with some of the final words from our old friend during Endwalker's finale, made it pretty clear what the topic of this Alliance raid would be. Flash forward to this past week, with the most recent live letter, and we're given another, and perhaps more vital clue from this image. What at face value is a cool piece of scenery, is in fact deeply tied to pre-existing lore, and something that we know quite a bit about, specifically involving the 12. So let's walk through what this image depicts. White stone, a tower, charged purple crystal or glass, arcing lightning, griffins, and idyllic blue sky. So my guess then is that in all likelihood, it's the Heaven of Lightning, or at least the place that inspired the story of the Heaven of Lightning. Now, if you're wondering what in the Seven Hells the Heaven of Lightning is, allow me to explain. If you want a more detailed version of what I'm about to cover, feel free to check out our other video on the 12. But to summarize the 12 and the Heavens briefly, the 12 are the deities of Eorzea, and basically gods, but like most other gods on Hydaelyn, they're all in all likelihood fictions based on true stories. Part of their myths are the 7 heavens and the 7 hells they rule over. Each of the 12 preside over an element, and they do so in pairs. Based on a shared element, those pairs in turn rule over the corresponding heaven and hell of that element. Save for the 7th heaven and hell, which are special cases that we don't fully understand or know a lot about based on their myths. When it comes to the 12, we have Ulthik and Nafka representing earth, Nymea and Thaliak representing water, Limlane and Oshan representing wind, Nalthal and Azima representing fire, Menfina and Halone representing ice, and most importantly for this video, we have Ralgar and Byrago being tied to lightning. The Heaven of Lightning in myths then is described as such. In the Heaven of Lightning, one will find a towering clockwork spiral built by Byrago, with metal forged from a comet, and powered by Ralgar's Levin bolts. Here rests engineers and architects, revolutionaries and conquerors of evil. Levin-charged fragments of the comet plummet to the pit to form the Hell of Lightning, a place of damnation for vandals, slumlords, and warmongers. So if we take that story, and couple it with what are the two primary reference points we have for the Heaven of Lightning in art, specifically drawings from Encyclopedia Eorzea Volume 1, and from the tarot art cards that depict some of the 12 and their respective heavens, we find some answers. Because, if we look back to the image shown to us during the past live letter, we see a bunch of connections. We also can look at things like seeing a massive tower, connection, and electricity, again referencing Ralgar and the Heaven of Lightning. But also importantly, we see the color purple just as prominently shown, and whose hue has been symbolic of lightning-aspected aether throughout all of Final Fantasy XIV in and out of game via symbols for Ralgar and Byrago, Ramuh, lightning crystals, and plenty more. We also see the iconography of griffins, which interestingly are tied to Alamigo, whose patron god is, you guessed it, Ralgar. And the color of Alamigo's banner is also purple. Now, while the imagery of the moon or comet is missing in the image we got from the live letter, I've always had a suspicion that it was in fact merely Dalamud, and at some point in history between the present and the Third Astral Era, its imagery was appended to the myth, as it must have been for Menfina as well, since the Faith of the 12 we know predates Allag, and yet Dalamud would have only come about just prior to the Fourth Emerald Calamity. And we know Menfina's symbol was twin moons, something that couldn't have existed on Eorzea prior to the Third Astral Era. Now, back to the blue sky bit. The imagery of a peaceful blue sky, as well as pure white alabaster for the structure, feeds into this sort of heavenly feel. Why that's important though, is the myth of the realm seems to be setting up to do exactly what it says, show us the truth behind many myths and stories of the realm. Though whether the realm just means Eorzea, or the wider world, is anyone's bet. If I had to make an educated guess, though, I'd say that we're likely to see 3 blocks of the story in raids as per usual, and with each block seeing us contending with 4 of the 12, their origins and the reality behind their existence, as well as taking us to the heavens and hells. This also kind of works really well when you think about the fact that it would mean 4 bosses per raid, which has been a common cadence for the dev team. While we may not fight the 12, or their inspirations literally, we're likely to fight some form of their embodiment of the myth. However, it's certainly possible that we'll deal with all 12 in the first raid, and find out more about other cultures' myths afterwards in the next 2 raids. It's anyone's guess, really. So, looking at it all in review, a Tower of Lightning, gods tied to known imagery, and heavens that may be fact or fiction. There's plenty of interesting things to dive into, both what we have at hand to theorize, or what might come and what that might tell us about the wider world of Hydaelyn/Etheris. But maybe the most important thing is that I can't wait to experience it all, and I'm plenty of excited to see the new frontiers of our world, and the truth behind some of our myths and legends. What do you guys think? Are we about to have one of Eorzea's oldest myths laid bare for us, with those places of legend revealed to be all too real? Or maybe something completely different? Make sure to let me know in the comments down below. And with that, I hope to see you all in 6.1. Cheers. This content was brought to you by the Eorzean Archives. If you enjoyed this video, help us please the 12 by leaving a like and subscribing for new content every Thursday. And comment down below with any topic you'd like to see our archons cover in the future. For even more content, discussion, and exclusives, please check out our Discord and consider supporting us on Patreon.